Love it or hate it, we all know what instant replay is in sports and the effect it's had on games. We've come a long way in other professional leagues, from VAR in soccer to Hawkeye in tennis, but it may surprise you to learn that Major League Baseball was the last notable league to implement instant replay. Umpires reviewing plays via video replay wasn't officially used until the 2008 season. If you were to look up the first official use of it, September 2008 is the first result that appears. However, that's not entirely correct. There was one noteworthy, unofficial occurrence of instant replay used to change a play well before that year. An event often forgotten in baseball history, the first instance where an umpire used instant replay to change the call of a play. May 31st, 1999. It was 26 years ago tomorrow from this video's upload date that the St. Louis Cardinals were on the road to face the Florida Marlins. For all intents and purposes, this game was meaningless for the Marlins. They entered this game with the worst record in Major League Baseball, 16-34, while sitting 14 games out of first place in the division. It was still a somewhat notable game for them, just not in terms of the impact on the standings. Former Marlin and World Series hero Edgar Renteria was making his return to Florida after being traded to the Cardinals in the offseason. Renteria spent the first 3 seasons of his career in Florida and earned an All-Star Game nomination the previous year in 1998. As for the Cardinals, they entered this game with a 24-24 record, 4.5 games out of first place. Coming off a disappointing 1998 season where they missed the playoffs, the Cardinals needed every win they could get down the stretch to remain competitive. In the top of the first, a double by Darren Bragg and a walk to Edgar Renteria put 2 runners on base for Ray Lankford. Facing the Marlins' Brian Meadows, Lankford drilled the pitch into the right center field gap. Bragg and Renteria both came around to score, and Lankford sailed into second base with a double to give St. Louis the early lead. Those would be the only runs scored in the inning, and the Cardinals led 2-0 heading to the bottom half. Florida didn't manage anything in the first or second inning, and the Cardinals added to their lead in the third. With Darren Bragg on third base and 1 out, Mark McGwire came to the plate. He didn't blast the pitch out of the park, but he did bloop it down the right field line that just managed to stay inside the line for a fair ball. Bragg easily scored, and McGwire ended up on second with an RBI double of his own to make it 3-0 St. Louis. Meanwhile, the St. Louis starting pitcher, Ken Bonfield, was cruising so far. He retired the first 7 batters of the game and threw a scoreless third to keep Florida off the scoreboard. However, in the 4th inning, the Marlins finally got to him. With 2 outs and runners on the corners, Mike Lowell came to bat. He hit a deep grounder to third base that was fielded by Fernando Tatis, but the throw was offline, and Lowell reached safely with what was ruled an RBI single. Why was this ruled a hit and not an error? I have no clue, but either way, a run scored to make it 3-1. That would be the only run scored here, but the score wouldn't remain that for long. Leading off the top of the 5th, Edgar Renteria came to the plate and promptly hit a deep fly ball to left center field that just got over the wall for a home run. Renteria's blast was the only run scored in the top half, and heading to the bottom of the 5th, St. Louis now led by a score of 4-1. You're all probably wondering, when am I going to get to the instant replay review? And we're nearly there, as it occurred in this inning. In the bottom of the 5th, Alex Gonzalez was on second base with 2 outs, and with Cliff Floyd at the plate, I'll show you what happened.
Hit those long fly balls like Willie McCovey.
There's a long fly ball to left center. Lankford watching it. It's off the scoreboard. It'll drive in a run. Floyd is signaling for a home run, but the scoreboard is in play, Cliff.
Initially ruled a double off the wall, a confrontation ensued as Floyd and manager John Bowles protested to the umpire that it was a home run and not a double. For those unfamiliar with the dimensions of Pro Player Stadium, there's a giant scoreboard wall in left field, some 28 feet high. The scoreboard is in play, and any ball hit off the wall is in play as well, just like the Green Monster at Fenway Park. Looking at the replay of the ball, It clearly hits the scoreboard and bounces back, so I have no idea what Floyd was thinking here. The umpires made the correct call, and yes, that bell-stop advertisement next to the scoreboard is also part of the wall. Anything that hits that advertisement is also in play. The ball would have had to hit the facade above the scoreboard for it to be a home run. It's undoubtedly a double off the wall, but what do I know, as only after a minute of discussing it, the umpires reversed their call and ruled that Floyd hit a homer. Of course, Cardinals manager Tony La Russa was not happy, and came out to argue with the umpires as well. La Russa must be a master negotiator, because the entire umpiring crew came together again to further discuss the play. Actually, he definitely is a great negotiator, since La Russa does have a law degree and was admitted to the Florida bar. I'm getting off track. After a brief conversation, the third base umpire and crew chief, Frank Poli, decided to do something that had never been done before in the history of Major League Baseball. He looked at a video replay of the hit. He went into the Marlins dugout and looked into the viewfinder of one of the television cameras stationed there. After a couple of minutes of reviewing the replay, Poli reversed the ruling again and called the hit a double. Another confrontation was held between Poli, Floyd, and the third base coach Freddie Gonzalez, but to no avail. And there you have it, the first ever occurrence of an umpire using instant replay. No special monitors in the clubhouse, no headphones, just looking at the tiny viewfinder on a television camera. This whole event begs an enormous question, however. Why did it happen in the first place? Why did Frank Poli decide to look at a replay? It's not as if Major League Baseball implemented a replay system. This was 100% done on Poli's own accord. As the man himself would later say, "I got confused with the ground rules. The one way to handle this was to go to the replay, and I went to the replay. It's the first time in 28 years that I've looked at a replay. I sure don't want to make a habit of it, but at that moment, I thought it was the proper thing to do." That's pretty much it on Poli's side. He made the correct call, but this opens up another thought. Should Frank Poli have done this? Should an umpire, without rules set in place or permission from the league, have looked at a video replay? Since there was no rule regarding this at the time, it prompted the Marlins to play this game under protest. They claimed it violated Major League policy and set an unwanted precedent. While there was no replay rule at the time, there was a rule that said the umpires do have the authority to rule on any point not specifically covered in these rules. One could argue Poli did just that, and was in his right to look at the camera to confirm the play, but that's not what the league said. Following this game, the National League president Len Coleman said, "Use of video replay is not an acceptable practice. Part of the beauty of baseball is that it is imperfect. Players make errors. Managers are constantly second-guessed. But the game is played and determined by two teams between the white lines." Coleman also called Poli's decision a mistake, and the commissioner, Bud Selig, also stated that electronic assistance is not permitted. The players and media alike had mostly negative reviews over this. The pitcher who was on the mound, Ken Bonfield, said he never cared for replay and would rather not see it. Cliff Floyd was naturally against it as well. Multiple sports writers were against this move as well, while one writer wanted Poli to be fined or suspended. Personally, I'm on the Marlins side. If Frank Poli is willing to do this for one play and for one team, what's stopping other umpires from doing this at random in the future? It just opens up a flurry of potential issues. Can a manager request this? How many times can an umpire do this in a game? What happens if an umpire looks at a replay and makes the wrong call? It honestly shouldn't have been done, but I'm not Frank Poli. From what I found, no unofficial replays were conducted following this move, so the league most likely made it clear to the umpires not to do anything like this ever again. As for the game itself, almost nothing else happened following the replay. Floyd's RBI double made it 4-2 Cardinals, and St. Louis would eventually win 5-2. Not that it mattered anyway, as they missed the playoffs regardless. As for instant replay, it would take almost a decade to officially get implemented in Major League Baseball. And as for Frank Poli, this game would actually be one of the last ones he ever umpired. A 28-year veteran at that point, Poli was part of the mass resignation by the Umpires Association in July 1999. He never returned to Major League Baseball after his resignation, leaving his impromptu decision his lasting impression in baseball. A pioneer, if you may say, the first time an umpire used instant replay to change a call in Major League Baseball history.